Good morning, Boker Tov. I'm Rabbi Shaner. I'm really excited to be with you here this morning with our Boker Tov with Temple Sinai, our daily chance to connect, reflect, and remember together as a community. This morning, we are going to begin, as we do every morning, with a prayer for gratitude for our souls and our bodies, which allow us to show up, to be here together, and to engage in the work that we have to do. And so we begin with prayer for our bodies and our spirits. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav אשר יצר את האדם בחוכמה, ובראבו נקבים נקבים, חלולים חלולים. גלוי וידוע לפני כיסא כבודך, שאם יפתח אחד מהם, או יסתם אחד מהם, אי אפשר להתקיים ולעמוד לפניך. ברוך אתה אדוני, רופא כל בשר, ומפליא לעשות. Blessed eternal God, creator of the universe, you have fashioned our bodies with wisdom, creating within us a finely balanced network. To stand before you in prayer is itself a fragile miracle. Eternal God, we praise you as the healer of body and spirit. And we continue now with a prayer which acknowledges the sacred work that we're about to engage in, the work of reflecting on words of our tradition, which allows us to stretch our minds and our hearts as we occupy ourselves with words of Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah v'ha'arevna Adonai Eloheinu et divrei toratcha b'finu ובפי עמך בית ישראל, ונהיה אנחנו וצאצאינו, וצאצאי עמך בית ישראל, כולנו יודעי שמך, ולומדי תורתך לשמה. ברוך אתה אדוני, המלמד Torah לעמו ישראל. Blessed eternal God, creator of the universe, you sanctify our lives with mitzvot, and command us to engage in Torah study. Eternal our God, may our words of Torah be sweet to us. Let every generation, young and old, the whole family of Israel, come to know you through the study of Torah for its own sake. Eternal God, we praise you as the teacher of Torah to the people of Israel. And as we begin to engage in words of Torah, we turn first to the words which have stood by our people in every generation, words which remind us that we are part of a larger whole, and that we are connected to everything in the universe, but especially to the idea that God is one. The words of Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת עליהם, ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם, ונתנו על ציצית הכנף פתיל תכלת. והיה לכם לציצית, וראיתם אותו, וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני, ועשיתם אותם, ולא תתורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם, אשר אתם זונים אחריהם. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. This morning, as we are on Thursday, which is one of the days of the week on which we would have been reading from our Torah portion, reading from our Parsha of the week, it's appropriate to turn to those words to find the lessons that are there for us. And so this morning's Torah portion is Parshat Matot Maseh. It's a double Parsha, and it's the last two Parshiot of the book of Numbers. And really, it's not just about finishing the book of Numbers, but completing the story of how the Israelites went from being a collection of tribes to being a people. And one of those ways is by making a record of the journeys that the Israelites had through the wilderness, which is part of what happens in this parsha. But one of those ways is by reminding us that there are conflicts, tribal conflicts, and intra-tribal conflicts that are going to occur and that need a resolution. And so one of those conflicts, one of those problems that needs a resolution at the end of the book of Numbers is the problem of what happens when someone accidentally kills someone else. We're not talking about. You can hear my dog is screaming as though someone has been accidentally murdered in my apartment. That's not what's happening. The problem of what happens when someone unintentionally harms another person, when someone commits a murder on purpose. In the Torah, we're told that the only possible repayment can be a life for a life, and so that sets us up for a cycle of revenge killings in which the family members of a murdered person would come and seek to not just justice but vengeance on the person who killed their loved one. And what the Torah tells us in this week's Parsha is that when they enter the land, the Israelites will have to set up 6 cities of refuge, cities where someone who accidentally kills someone else can flee, and where they will be protected from the family members of that person, and where they will serve their sentence, their time, until they are able to eventually return to their own families. And it sounds to me like when we say this, teach about these cities of refuge, I think there's a misunderstanding that it's a life sentence, that a person who commits manslaughter will flee to the cities of refuge and will be protected, but will be in exile for the rest of their life. And that's not exactly true. As we look in the text for today's Parsha, the sentence of the person who commits manslaughter is determined by one very important factor, which we see here. So in our Torah reading, in Numbers 35:25, it says, Vayashav ba ad mot hakohen hagadol asher mashach oto b'shemen hakodesh. The assembly shall protect the manslayer from the blood avenger, and the assembly shall restore him to the city of refuge to which he fled, and there the person who accidentally killed someone else shall remain until the death of the high priest who was anointed with sacred oil. This is a fascinating way to determine the length of someone's sentence for a crime which is entirely out of their hands, which is entirely accidental. On the one hand, we have to balance the need of the person who, by no intention of their own, has committed this murder and is in danger of being murdered themselves. And on the other hand, we also have the balance of justice for the family. And there is not a formula that anyone could come up with that would be fair to each and every case. That in our own justice system, we have sentencing guidelines which are basically blankets for a large body, a large range of culpability. And here too, there is no way that they could say a person should stay in the cities of refuge for this many years if they were negligent, and that many years if it was totally a freak accident. Each person's culpability is entirely indeterminate. And so what they say here is that the person should remain until the death of the high priest. Now, one of the things that this guideline, this sentencing guideline, we can look at it that way, does is that it ties together the fate, the lifespan of the person who is most important in Jewish society at the time, the person who is tasked with the religious and symbolic leadership over the entire people, with the person who is most vulnerable in this moment, the person who is exiled from their own family, the person who is vulnerable to the accidents of life, the circumstances of life which are out of their control. And that connection is brought forth by our tradition. So we learn, for example, in the Mishnah, that the mother of the Kohen Gadol would in this time have provided clothing and food for all of the manslaughterers in the cities of refuge. And the Talmud asks, why would she do that? In order that she should prevent them from praying for the death of her son. There is this understanding that the cycle of violence, the cycle of vengeance, is not just about you killed my family member and now I'm coming after you. It's also about understanding that if my fate depends on you, I might want to push that along in some way. But the tradition comes along and explains further. Maimonides says the reason for this, the death of the Kohen Gadol being the moment of release for all of the manslaughterers in the cities of refuge, is that the family members of the person who was killed will realize, when they understand that a person as important and of as high a station as the Kohen Gadol, of the high priest, when that person is also vulnerable to mortality and to the accidents of life, then they will feel comforted and consoled and not seek vengeance anymore against this person who killed their family member. And still later, the Meshech Chochmah, a 19th century Lithuanian commentator on the Torah, points to the fact that it says in the text that the person should stay in the city of refuge until the death of the Kohen Gadol, that asher mashach oto, that that was anointed by the sacred oil, but which sounds like it's saying that was anointed by the manslaughterer. Asher mashach oto means literally who he anointed. And the Meshech Chochmah says that what that means is that each person's sentence, each person's length of time that they should stay in the cities of refuge is determined by God and God alone, and that each Kohen Gadol is likewise appointed for their lifetime, which is a period of time only known to God, and that God actually appoints each person's Kohen Gadol to die at a specific time, so that the sentences of each of these manslaughterers will come to an end at exactly the right moment. And because that Kohen Gadol was appointed for that purpose, for that time period, therefore, it's as if the manslaughterer is the one who anointed the Kohen in the first place. All of this is interesting. It's fascinating. The role of destiny and of fragility and of mortality in these explanations of this very strange detail in the text really do sort of play off of one another. But what they all boil down to is the fact that no matter our station in life, no matter whether we are a leader in a political sense or in our religious community, or we are someone who is on the run from others, who is vulnerable to attack. No matter our station in life, each person is connected to one another. And one of the ways that we are connected, whether it's through the fact that we all have a mother who cares about us, or through our fragility and our mortality, or through our being out of control, our destiny, no matter our station, really each person is connected by their vulnerability, by the fact that we all suffer from the accidents of life, and therefore we all have a responsibility toward one another to not exploit those accidents, to not ignore those accidents, but to lift each other up and to be kind to one another. And so I hope this morning that no matter what you're feeling, that you understand that in this moment in which many of us are more vulnerable than we would like to be, in which we are facing a situation which is out of any one of our personal control, that you take that vulnerability, that fragility, that mortality, not as a sign that we should panic or protect ourselves, but as an opportunity to connect with the people around you, to show them kindness, and to understand that what it means for all of us to be vulnerable is that we share something human that is worth more than anything else. And so with that, we turn now to remember those who are most vulnerable in this moment, those who are ill, isolated, and working hard to keep the rest of us safe. And so we offer these traditional words as we ask for healing and wholeness for all who are ill, isolated, and on the front lines in our society today. Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak veYaakov ve'imotenu Sarah Rivka Leah veRachel וירפא את כל מכותינו. ויהי רצון מלפניך אדוני אלוהינו להחלימם ולרפאותם, וישלח לנו מהרה רפואה שלמה ועטרת שלום, ונאמר Amen. May the one who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and our mothers, Sarah, Rebecca, Leah, and Rachel, heal all who suffer. May it be your will to provide healing and strength, to reveal to us the holiness of life and the wholeness of shalom, and to guard us from all illness, and let us say together, Amen. We also think now of those who went before us, those who taught us what it is to be kind to one another, what it is to accept our vulnerability, and what it is to love the people around us. Those who died at this time, in recent days and weeks, we extend our condolences and our sympathies to the families of David Garber, Zena Werb, Robert Filler, Alan Fridson, Rose Rich, Benjamin Fruitman, and Orit Fagan, as well as those who died at this time on this 24th of Tammuz in years past. Harvey Atkin, Dora Kunzman, Israel Kaplansky, Frank Cappy, Shirley Laderman, Rachel Lufsky, Mattis Mintz, and Louis Silverberg. Zichronam livracha. May their memories always bring us blessing as we turn to words glorified by memory, words sanctified by hope, the words of the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmeh Rabbah, be'alma divra chiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'zman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehe shmeh Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'le'almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmeh tukudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehe shlama Rabbah min shmaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'meromav, hu yaraseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who remember. As we say together, Amen. It's been wonderful spending this morning with you, connecting and reflecting on a topic which is really the fine details of our Torah, but which has a lot of wisdom. And I hope that you'll join us again at 8:30 every day this week and next, as well as for our Shabbat services this week at 6:30 Friday evening and 10 a.m. Saturday morning. I look forward to spending more time with you and hope that you make it a great day. Boker Tov.